not many people know that I come from a family of geologists. Both my parents, they're PhD geologists, and both me and my brother avoided to go in the geo world as much as possible. And even though we tried to go away from the geo world, for me personally, I really always enjoy things related to earth sciences and outdoor activities. So for me, become natural, but I always been also very much excited about computers and code development, having a startup where we can do more innovative research, more unleashed and more great opportunities for research and development, great opportunities to outreach, to collaborate, apply those to solve this problem. I mean, very common geology joke is that give the same data to 5 geologists, they'll give you 5 different geologic maps. And the same way we see AI. I mean, if you apply 5 different AI methods, potentially you get different results, but all of these will provide you better, more trustworthy, more robust results, because when you compare different AI techniques, how they perform, there are a lot of uncertainties, there are a lot of challenges. Some people even think that seismic events are inherently not predictable. However, through our work in the past, we have found ways to mitigate some of these challenges. So there is a potentially good opportunity to predict, or at least with some uncertainties, to evaluate what is the potential for occurrence of these seismic events. And AI tools are definitely something that can provide the major help to address this challenging problem. Geothermal resources are frequently co-located with locations where we have observed elevated concentrations for critical minerals.
Welcome to Geothermal Unleashed, the podcast where we dive into the frontier of geothermal energy and its role in the global energy transition. I'm Elizabeth Cambre with Valorec New Energy's team, and I'm here to help spotlight the innovators, technologies, and stories that are driving geothermal forward. Today, I'm excited to welcome Velimir or Monty Vesselinov, who is the co-founder, CTO, and CSO of EnviTrace, based out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. So welcome to the show, Monty. I'm extremely delighted to have you here today. I want to kick things off by asking you to start with giving our listeners insights into your educational background, and then your current career at EnviTrace, and then how you came to be a part of the geothermal industry.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting question. I mean, one thing that is maybe not many people know, that I come from a family of geologists. Both my parents, they're PhD geologists, and both me and my brother avoided to go in the geo world as much as possible. And even though we tried to go away from the geo world, both me and my brother are geoscientists as well. So it seems to be in our genes, even though we try to resist it. So for me personally, I really always kind of enjoy things related to earth sciences and outdoor activities. So for me, it kind of become natural, but I always been also very much excited about computers and code development. So I always saw that I was seeking to do something which merges these capabilities, geosciences and computers. Initially, my education started back in Bulgaria, where I did my master's, and I'm very grateful for the amazing advisors that I had there. I also had a lot of entrepreneur experiences. I did consulting work. I started my own company. I was involved with a lot of education and outreach programs. So I did a lot of these things before coming to US. I came here to do my PhD in Tucson, Arizona, again, having amazing opportunities to collaborate with amazing people and advisors. After that, I was at Los Alamos National Lab, where I was initially postdoc, after that research scientist for more than 20 years. And through all these years, I always kind of juggled between computers, code development, development codes and algorithms to analyze complex problems related to earth sciences. And more than 10 years ago, our on my career path, focus on artificial intelligence and machine learning, and more specifically for geothermal. So this is how crazy, long, winding road of my experience.
I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so now let's talk about EnviTrace. Can you talk about what your company does and your AI offerings?
We started with the idea that we discovered that through our current work, me at Los Alamos National Lab and Trace Kliphaus, my co-founder at New Mexico, various institutions, including environmental department, where she worked over the years, we found that even though we can make change working at these institutions, maybe it's more efficient and more effective to be having a startup where we can do more innovative research, more unleashed and more great opportunities for research and development, great opportunities to outreach and to collaborate. So this was kind of major premise. We were under impression that we can do a lot of innovative things. We had big ideas. Some of these big ideas transpired on the big trees when we were in Sequoia National Park and enjoying the scenery and saying, oh, we can do great things. And we really started more than 5 years ago. And since then, we have been very successful in developing of our R&D tools. We have been awarded more than 4.5 million in R&D funding to develop our AI tools. We have been collaborating with clients and customers and partners, and so we have been excited to continue our collaborative work with the network of researchers in the work area that we're doing, geothermal, but also not only geothermal, we also work on carbon sequestration, critical minerals, induced seismicity. I mean, many problems that are critical for geoengineering problems, let's call it.
So are all of your offerings, they're focused on exploration of geothermal, exploration for CCUS potential, and then critical minerals?
Yeah. We primarily at the moment we're working on the exploration part because in many cases we have a lot of data. Some of these data might be not very accurate. There might be uncertainties. There are differences in the support scale, how the data was collected, at what resolution. And it's almost like finding a needle in a haystack. So most of the environmental problems dealing with data sets which we need to unravel important signatures, important information. Frequently we joke that if you spend more than 15 minutes staring an Excel spreadsheet, maybe there are better tools to do this with artificial intelligence and machine learning, that, like what we're developing. And so finding these needles in the haystack requires modern tools and modern capabilities to dive in all these data, look deeper, find interesting patterns that can guide the exploration. Yeah. And after that, not only exploration, but also production and utilization of these resources.
So what are some of the data sets that you collect?
We don't really collect data. I mean, our company focuses on the analysis. So we collaborate with other companies that are expert in data collection, for example, like airborne geophysics or collecting data in the field. So we explore how proprietary and public data sets, which are available, public data sets which are collected by USGS, United States Geological Service, or Department of Energy. All these institutions have invested a lot of time and money to collect large data sets. And these data sets are publicly available, but not all the information that can be extracted from these data sets is really done efficiently at the moment. So we are facilitating this type of analysis. For example, USGS recently released a big study on the hydrogen prospectivity, in which they wanted to emphasize how we can find hydrogen resources in the subsurface. And this study produced a lot of data, a lot of analysis, a lot of conclusions, and we are further refining this work with our methods and tools.
Okay, so when you look at companies that are using AI tools for exploration, do you see that many of them are developing systems or tools internally for exploration specifically, or are companies looking at third parties like EnviTrace? What are the advantages?
It's a very good question. We believe that first, at the moment, AI is exploding, exponentially increasing in terms of capabilities, outreach, opportunities out there. So it's very difficult to say that whatever you developed even a week ago or a year ago is up to date now. So it's so fast, so much new tools are coming online, so much new opportunities come when we are analyzing the data. So we need constantly to update and improve our algorithms. So even though many people are doing this, our company, other companies, big and small and medium size, developing their own tools, some of them developing entirely proprietary, some of them stepping on existing open source tools, which are also widely developed. But the key thing is that really it's very difficult to say that one technique or one method is superior over the others. And I think the best way to apply AI, especially in the geosciences, where we have a lot of uncertainties, a lot of data gaps, is to apply as many alternative AI tools as possible and apply those to solve this problem. Very common geology joke is that give the same data to 5 geologists, they'll give you 5 different geologic maps. And the same way we see AI. If you apply 5 different AI methods, potentially you get different results, but all of these will provide you better and more trustworthy, more robust results, because when you compare different AI techniques, how they perform, you can discover that something else is need to be collected. Some of this method needs to be refined or improved. So there is a lot of opportunity how when different tools are tested and validated against each other to perform better work.
Yeah, okay. Can you talk a little bit about the projects that you're currently working on?
We have several ongoing projects. One project that currently is primary focus is induced seismicity. Induced seismicity is an important problem because almost any activity that we execute in the subsurface, regardless this is oil and gas or carbon sequestration or geothermal, any time that we're perturbing the subsurface, we have opportunities to create deformations, to have changes in the stress in the subsurface, which ultimately can induce seismicity. And seismicity is a physical phenomena, is very challenging to predict. There is a lot of mathematical and physical analysis of seismic events. They're driven by processes which really, there are a lot of uncertainties, there are a lot of challenges. Some people even think that seismic events are inherently not predictable. However, through our work in the past, we have found ways to mitigate some of these challenges. So there is a potentially good opportunity to predict, or at least with some uncertainties, to evaluate what is the potential for occurrence of these seismic events. And AI tools are definitely something that can provide the major help to address this challenging problem.
So you had some specific projects that were in Utah and then the Geysers. Can you share anything from the work that you did on those projects?
Yes, yes, yeah. So UTForge is a site funded by Department of Energy and supported by multiple other organizations and academic and commercial. And the major goal of the project is to better understand how subsurface, when it's interrogated, how we're changing the properties. They conducted a lot of field experiments, which are specifically designed how to interrogate and characterize the subsurface. And analyzing this data is a big effort that was done by many institutions. What we have done, and we're excited about, that we systematically process all the data that was collected for related to induced seismicity and created a catalog of events, seismic events that occurred, and what were the precursors, what kind of ejection occurred, what volumes were injected, where they were injected, and to relate the stresses that were put on the system and the observed seismic events. But this is not the only data set that we're analyzing. As mentioned, Geysers. Geysers is the big geothermal plant it's a big project in California for electricity production. And they have also executed tests, but they also during their regular performance, when they produce electricity from this geothermal resource, they cause seismic events. And these seismic events, again, well recorded, and relating the seismic events to the actual geothermal production is something that we analyzing and trying to make predictions.
Okay. You also are doing work with critical minerals. Can you talk a little bit about those projects?
Yeah, critical minerals, in many cases, they're related to geothermal. In geothermal resources are frequently co-located with locations where we have observed elevated concentrations for critical minerals. Much of the water that is extracted during geothermal extraction could have elevated concentrations of these elements. And for example, Salton Sea in Southern California is one of the sites which have demonstrated that it's not only prospective for geothermal, but also for extraction of critical minerals, especially lithium. And there is a lot of data that is available for this site, including airborne geophysics, which is collected by USGS and Department of Energy. And all these data we're currently analyzing, and we're looking for ways how we can simultaneously analyze the subsurface for not only geothermal prospectivity, but also critical mineral prospectivity, and how both of these efforts can be combined and executed more efficiently. So this is one area. But critical elements and critical minerals, there is a lot of also data throughout US, especially in the Great Basin. There is a lot of data for concentration of critical minerals in the subsurface from water samples. And we also analyze these data for the Great Basin as well. So there is a lot of information. The processes which are associated with the development of critical minerals challenging because we need to have some kind of faults which connect to the mantle, and along these faults to have propagation of fluids that can carry these elements. So there is a lot of things that we need to better understand to better identify locations with high prospectivity for critical minerals.
So let's talk now about how you see AI in general transforming geothermal and then the broader energy sector over the next coming years.
I'm a believer. Many people are resistant. Many people are worried that AI might not only produce better results, hallucinations and inaccuracies because it's not properly executed or it's not properly trained. So there is a lot of concerns about how AI is implemented, especially for science problems. What we are aiming and what we are doing is to develop machine learning tools that incorporate physics information and science information in the machine learning process, and bringing these kind of constraints and limitations which kind of guard the machine learning to make predictions which are unrealistic or not physical is something that we're very passionate, and we believe that when these kind of tools get more widely accepted by the industry in their workflows, this could be very beneficial. But it's a challenge because the people who need to apply these tools, they need to have expertise not only in the geosciences, but they also need to understand how AI and machine learning work. And having this kind of capabilities is limited. There is not enough experts that have both geo and machine learning expertise. And this, in my mind, is kind of the more challenging aspect. Really workforce education and having workshops or educational materials which help industry to adopt these tools. And related to this, I mean, our company is organizing a workshop in March next year, 2026. Could be this year, depending when the podcast is released. But in March 2026, we'll have a workshop in Santa Fe where we will try to get researchers and industry partners in one place and find what the major challenges are and how we can address these issues more efficiently.
Very good. So what are some of the challenges that you face when integrating AI into the subsurface modeling? And then what risk mitigation is there and how do you overcome these challenges?
I mean, for me, the major problem is first starts with the data. Frequently, most of the machine learning projects take substantial amount of time, maybe 90% or 80% of the time to pre-process the data that needs to go in the machine learning analysis, because it's very important all the data that we use is defensible, it's with uncertainties which is acceptable to remove erroneous measurements, erroneous data. So there's a lot of data wrangling associated with this process. Once with the machine learning analysis is executed, then critical is the subject matter expertise to look at the results, how much they make sense. And after that, bringing them into, for example, site model, because machine learning tools can be coupled with a lot of existing reservoir modeling capabilities, and populating inputs for these large models that we typically use to predict the physics at the site. This is one area that AI tools can help. They can help not only to make predictions, but also to provide inputs for large models that people use for reservoir modeling as well. So there is a lot of opportunities. One thing that is very important to mention is when you build numerical models, they frequently rely on some kind of parameterization. And when you say parameterization, this is like representing the permeability field using kriging techniques or other techniques that can capture the heterogeneity in different scales, or predicting fracture orientations and family of fractures which exist in the reservoir, which are very important. And all these parameterization techniques, which are to better inform what potential uncertainties about the properties in the subsurface are, can be highly improved by application of AI tools similar to the one we are developing in our company.
Very interesting. So looking ahead, what innovations or partnerships are you most excited about for EnviTrace?
I believe in collaborations, because it's very difficult, especially in this new development, to think that every single company will have everything in-house developed in terms of their capabilities. There will be always something that you need to be externally provided or collaboratively developed, because it's so difficult to be on the forefront and knowledgeable about all the challenges that exist in the geosciences, into AI challenges. So I believe in the collaboration. I believe that partnerships in which can be mutually beneficial are the most important thing currently to be fostered in our industry. Working together, trying to solve problems together, being more open and sharing data. I mean, there is one important thing that many of the European countries and other countries around the world have much stricter requirements what data from the subsurface projects becomes available to the public. In US is very different. In every single state have different regulations, but having framework that allows public and proprietary data to be easily merged and analyzed for projects is something that is very important, and this has to be built through the community, and we want to be part of this community and help develop these community-based capabilities.
Sure. Well, we're out of time today, and I want to thank you so much, Monty, for joining me. And I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us on this episode of Geothermal Unleashed. I hope today's conversation with Monty has offered fresh insights and sparked new ideas about the forefront of geothermal energy. As we continue to navigate the energy transition, it's clear that geothermal has a powerful role to play, one that's only just beginning to be fully realized. Until next time, keep challenging assumptions, exploring new frontiers, and working together to unlock the full potential of geothermal energy. Thank you.
Thank you.